How's it going, guys? Steve here with Next Gen Baseball. Today we're going to go over how to throw a breaking ball. So if you're just starting out and how to learn how to throw a breaking ball, or you've already been throwing one but you just want to learn how to get it a little bit sharper, throw it for strikes a little bit more and get more swings and misses, then this is going to be the video for you. So let's get started right now. One of the keys behind throwing a breaking ball is to understand the science behind it and to understand the physics. The effect that we're trying to utilize the most is what physics refers to as the Magnus effect. The Magnus effect creates a high pressure system and low pressure systems around the projectile, which can influence its direction and the path in which it's going to take. For a real life example, take a look at this video of a basketball being thrown off a dam with spin, and take a look and see how the spin affects the direction of the object.
Whoa, look at that go! That's incredible.
So you want those to get back in the water, do you?
As you can see, the Magnus effect has a huge influence on how an object is going to travel based on its spin. So when we're throwing a breaking ball off the mound, spin rate is going to be key. At the big leagues, a breaking ball is typically thrown at about 23 to 2400 RPMs. You're probably not going to achieve that if you're not in the big leagues, but that is just something to keep in mind when you're throwing your off-speed pitch, is to create as much spin as possible. Now that we understand the physics that are going into throwing a breaking ball, let's talk about now how we're going to grip this thing to increase our spin rate when we're throwing the baseball. So there are a couple ways to grip a breaking ball, but the most common technique is if you take your two fingers, your pointer finger and your middle finger, place them together, and you're going to place your middle finger right on the inside part of the horseshoe with your pointer finger laid up right next to it. And then on the bottom part, you're going to place your thumb right on the inside part of the seam on the bottom part of the horseshoe. Placing it on the inside part of the seam gives us leverage, because the seams are raised above the baseball. So when we go and release it and we turn that thing, we can actually grab onto the seams to increase more spin rate. Now, some other grips, one is that's pretty common is the knuckle curve, which is gripped as so. And then some people also tend to choke that ball a little bit more, while others will keep a little bit of space between that ball and their palm. But it's really what works best for you. As I mentioned before, it's all about getting that spin rate. So find what works best for you and what you can control the best. And so let's talk about how we're going to release this thing to home plate. If you can just imagine your fastball, you're coming out and you just release that thing right over the top. Breaking ball is going to be somewhat similar. You're coming with your same curveball grip, but you're having your same fastball release. But when you get to your release, you're going to turn your wrist over. So you're going to kind of release it a little bit like a football. After you release that thing, you're actually going to be pronating your wrist and turning that ball over, therefore getting that side spin to create that break. Now, like I said before, rotation is key when throwing a breaking ball. So we want to throw this thing hard so we can get a lot sharper break. And another reason as to why we want to throw it hard is because we're going to be more deceptive in our release point. So when I get to my release point, remember, all I'm doing is I'm just turning my wrist over at the very last minute. But once I release this thing, this ball is going to create kind of a rising effect, which is different than my fastball, which just comes straight down out of my hands. And that is actually what tips it off to the hitter. So the sharper we can throw this, the less of a rise we create and the more deceptive we're going to be. So let's take a look at this in real time. So I'm going to throw some pitches off the mound here and see if you can spot the difference between a fastball, a breaking ball, and a hard throwing breaking ball. Were you able to spot the difference? Let's take a look back here in slow motion. As you can see, the harder throwing breaking ball is a lot more deceptive and doesn't have that big loop, that big rise out of my hand. That's typically what's thrown at the big league level and amongst college athletes as well, in order to create that deception. All right, my final tip for you guys is do not get discouraged when learning how to throw a breaking ball or learn how to perfect your breaking ball. It takes a lot of practice. Just remember, consistency and reps are key in order to create that tight spin. So I hope this video helped you guys. Feel free to leave a comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.